Update on the Skiff. I have the Outwales. I guess you would say this is a Sub-Outwale created. And the next step will be milling the actual Outwale. And I have the stock here, solid cherry stock. I'm going to make this round over and create that. Before that goes on though, I have to match the original Sub-Outwale. And I'm calling it that because that's what it is on the new boat. On the original boat though, this top piece was actually part of the hull. And this was clinched into the top strip when it was originally made. So this was part of the hull. This is going applied to the hull, but what I want to do is match it. This is the one from the other side, and it's off the boat, and you can see that it took the curve very well by gluing it up in strips. And I know it's hard to see, but there is also bend within these three strips, so it wraps around the boat because there is some curve there. So the next step now, every 1.5 inches there was a copper tack that clinched this part to the top strip that was there. I need to recreate that on this piece. This is my setup for making the tacks. So this is a box of 1/2 inch copper tacks. I matched the original, that's an original tack on the right, and I matched the head size so that they match. And then what I do is I clip each of them so that each tack is only just that part. It's not going all the way through. Here's the waste from doing all of those. This is from doing the hull. And then I pre-drill, mark pre-drill, and then I made this little punch that is perfect for that. So I take one of these, and it gets placed into the hole that's punched by this, and it's set with a tiny little bit of epoxy to hold that in. So I'm drilling out the same spacing here, on here, pre-drill, punch, put a little tack in with a little bit of epoxy, and let those set all the way down, 1.5 inches apart, each of those. And then I'll resand to make sure there's no epoxy left on it, because this is only getting varnished once it's on the boat. It'll be epoxied to the boat, but this will become bright work, so it's going to get varnish. I've got everything marked out, and the way I do it, I took from the original. I just marked how far apart the first three were. I just made marks. Came over here and made the marks. Moved it down, made the marks all the way down through. Over here I have a piece of cherry. Here's one of the tack cutoffs that I have. And I drilled the hole. I have this punch that I told you about, 2 taps, and it's ready to receive the tack. Set it down in there. 1 tap with a hammer, and it's flush. So it looks like it's clinched into the cherry. So now I've got, I didn't count the holes, but I'll tell you when I'm done. Go down through there, drill, punch, and then once that's done, I'll mix up a little batch of epoxy, and I'll set each of those in there and make sure they're all tapped. Sometimes I feel more like a jeweler than a woodworker. There's the holes all laid out. And I'm starting to put tacks in. See if I can do this I can't do it one-handed, but what I'm doing is using essentially a toothpick, and I'm dipping it in the epoxy. I'm putting it a drop in each hole as I go along. And then I grab tweezers. It's with my left hand usually. Grab one of these, set it in, tap it with a tack hammer just to set it. Do about 10 in a row, and then I go back and I set with this and the 16-ounce hammer to set it just below the surface. So they're all epoxied in. They don't really protrude through the back. I've got the back side of this blue taped so that the epoxy doesn't stick that to the table. It's about well, not about, I counted it. It's 141 tacks per side. And the other one is sitting over there and waiting. I don't know if I'll pick up the holes or not, but there they are. So that's all ready to go. And I'll do that one after this. Let those dry overnight. Sand the pencil marks and everything away. And then I will be able to epoxy those to the boat. Pretty, isn't it? I've got the skiff prepped to receive that Sub-Outwale. Here are the pair of them. This is the back of the one I'm about to apply with epoxy. Here's what the front of them look like. Everything's sanded. Every 1.5 inches. There are tacks. And after lunch, it's already prepped with 80 grit, and so is the back of the piece. I will apply epoxy, light coat to both, and then an filler added coat to the back of this piece. And then I'll apply it lightly as possible, clamp it, and let that sit overnight. And just like that, it's clamped on. Clamp along the top to hold the shear at the right spot, and then intermittent at the bottom to help that hug the hull down and over. Everything taped off. I know it seems drastic to drape the whole boat like that, but I did drip a couple drips that would have hit the boat, and I didn't know how much squeeze out was actually going to happen. There's a little bit on the bottom, which is exactly what I want. And as that begins to gel, I'll come back with a popsicle stick and I will scrape that off. And then, then I'll be able to peel the tape. Once it's gelled, then I know it's not going to drip anymore, and it's actually best to peel the tape then before the epoxy is actually dry. So you got to kind of keep an eye on it and catch it at the right time so that it's begun to set up and it won't drip. But it's not so set up that the tape becomes part of the epoxy. So kind of got to babysit it here for a little bit and take the tape off at the right time, and then I will unclamp that tomorrow, prep the other side, and get that one clamped on. After that, the decks go in, and I can't wait to show you those.